So you talk about how all throughout these academic journals and these books we see near-death experiences happening, and I think a lot of skeptics would typically grant this fact, at least the ones who are educated in the topic. But I think the question is, what do these mean? What do these prove? So when you see these near-death experiences in this research, to you, what does that mean? Like, what's the meaning behind this? What does this show you about the reality in the universe that we live in?
Well, that's a good question. Uh, I do not, let me tell you what I don't think they show. Near-death experiences do not show that a particular religion is true. Hindus, there are Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Jewish, Christian NDE reports. And all of those groups can stand shoulder to shoulder. A Hindu could stand with a Christian and they could agree that there's an afterlife. Now, they won't agree on whether Hinduism or Christianity is true, but they will agree that there's an afterlife. And if you take a major atheist like Bertrand Russell, the famous British atheist, the last generation, a philosopher and mathematician, he said the two main views of atheism, two main positions, are there is no God and there is no afterlife. Well, if a Hindu and a Christian agrees that there's an afterlife, that would seem to be a big blow to atheism. So I think that's the main thing NDEs do. Let me repeat: they don't say that a religion is true, but they just say that the atheistic, naturalistic would be the philosophy. The naturalistic theory of no afterlife would seem to be incorrect because there's verifiable consciousness after the death of the body. And even if the naturalist says, well, come on, the person's not dead yet. Well, fine, but what do you do with no measurable heart and brain waves? And by the way, sometimes these go on for a long time. The no measurable heart and brain waves can happen for 30 or 40 minutes. And you're going to say, oh, well, your brain's going to be wasted. But it's not. When it comes back, it's not. So these go on for a minute. So then maybe the next person could say, all right. So you're somewhere and you're seeing something in another dimension in the room. Maybe you're going to pass out of existence in a half hour or an hour. But there are reports, these are special evidential ones, but there are reports that can even extend for years. That would take another kind of explanation. But they're not over in 5 minutes or 2 minutes. So if I were an atheist and I were really committed to my atheism, NDEs would make me very uneasy. In fact, I had a debate with an NDE on NDEs not long ago, and I produced a list of 300, or at least I cited 300 evidential cases. I divided them into five categories of NDE evidence. So my only point is, just about the time the atheist says, oh, because you have 2 or 3 of these, I don't agree, or because they're 2 or 3 minutes long, who cares? Well, they're not 2 or 3. There are hundreds of them. Again, this book, up to 21 million Americans claim they've been there and done that. And it's not 2 or 3 minutes. Some of them are quite long. They can give blow-by-blow descriptions of what happened during their resuscitation. And again, you can bring so many cases in with 500. You can bring so many cases in that you can come up with an evidential case that answers just about any question there is. So again, just to say it in summary, I would be really ill at ease if I were an unbeliever. If I were a naturalist, and I'm always going around poo-pooing religion, and then all of a sudden you start getting 300 of these cases and 21 million people overall who claim to have been there. That would bother me.
So do you think NDEs point to, I know you said it doesn't point to a specific worldview and say this is true, but do you think they might provide evidence for specifically either like obviously you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, so theism, or is it just kind of like a broad sense? There has to be something beyond just the materialistic framework of our universe.
I think it's beyond the materialistic framework of this universe. I think it's another world. Now, the guy could stop me right there and he could say, what do you mean another world? I mean, what? Did you see The Wizard of Oz? Did you see Bilbo Baggins? Did you see Aslan the Lion? And he could be saying it like with a smirk. But let me give you an example. If you're in a car accident and you're watching the people take your body and you're unconscious and they're watching you load it into an ambulance. By the way, I've had a couple cases where, ambulances often have numbers on top, so they can be tracked by helicopters if you have to be airlifted. And I've heard 2 reports of people who gave the number on the top of the ambulance, who knew what number it was, like 121 or 67. They gave the number. But if you're watching your body being taken away in an ambulance, you haven't seen the wizard, you haven't seen Aslan, you haven't seen Bilbo Baggins or Gandalf. But the point is, when these people start talking to their family members, I have a guy, one of my PhD students, he fell out of a tree, landed on his head. They thought he was dead. He fell a long ways and landed on his head. His mom thought he was dead. And he's up above her head. He's going, Mom, stop crying. I'm fine. And she's still hugging him and pulling him up herself. He was 14 or 15. She was hugging him. Mom, I'm fine. Now, even that description, if it's true, would be another world, because he's talking to his mom. She can't see him. She doesn't say, well, honey, if you're alive, come down out of that tree and we'll know you're okay. No, she doesn't know he's up in the tree. She can't hear him. And he can report all his data. So that right there is another world. We would call it another dimension. But life in another dimension, I would think, would be rather disarming to an atheist.